Hi everyone, which states in the US have already put forward a bill to implement a strategic Bitcoin reserve in that state? Because I covered the possibility and timeframe of this being implemented directly by Trump on a national level through Trump's presidential executive order in our previous video that you can find the link to here in the description. But in this video, we're going to be looking at several US states and the legislation that they've already put forward to adopt Bitcoin in that state. So stick around to the end of this video to find out what services Coin Knowledge offers. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel so I can continue to offer more content for you in future. Just a quick reminder that nothing contained here is financial advice, and let's jump straight in. Senator Cynthia Lummis, who's just been appointed as chair of the Senate Banking Subcommittee on Digital Assets, has posted several times recently mentioning Bitcoin and digital assets, as you can see here, saying that the Senate Banking Digital Assets Subcommittee will eradicate the previous Operation Choke Point 2.0 and make America the Bitcoin and digital asset capital of the world, with her saying on January the 29th that one of the first orders of business will be to hold public hearings on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And Dennis Porter, who's an American Bitcoin advocate, the CEO and co-founder of Satoshi Action Fund, and president and founder of Satoshi Action Education, is highlighting the large number of US states that are putting forward strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation, with him posting about this a lot and actively promoting this on a state level, rather than this only coming directly through Trump and his administration, with some examples of US states that have introduced a Bitcoin reserve bill being Pennsylvania, that introduced legislation called HB 2664 on the 19th of November 2024 to form a Bitcoin strategic reserve, allocating up to 10% of its treasury reserves into Bitcoin, with Pennsylvania Representative Mike Cabell introducing this Bitcoin Strategic Reserve Act. Texas, with two people actually having introduced legislation to create a Bitcoin reserve there. Firstly, State Representative Giovanni Cabriglione introduced legislation on the 12th of December 2024 called the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, or HB 1598, which would allow fees, taxes, and contributions to be paid in BTC, which would help build up the Bitcoin reserve. And given that the state takes in over $250 billion per year in revenue from taxes, fees, etc., then that could be possible. Then, on the 14th of January, Senator Charles Schwerner introduced another bill called the Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, or SB 778 in this case, that aims to create a separate fund outside the General Revenue Fund of Texas, with the state being able to use up to 1% of general revenue to purchase Bitcoin, with this saying that it has the strategic potential for enhancing the state's financial resilience and serving as a hedge against inflation and economic volatility. And Schwerner put out this post on X on January the 15th, confirming his strategic Bitcoin reserve bill, saying that this would position the state at the forefront of the digital economy, driving growth and securing economic freedom. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick announced on the 29th of January the top 25 of 40 priority bills that he wants passed in 2025, with establishing the Texas Bitcoin Reserve being in 21st place in the list. But let's move on to another state now, because on the 7th of January 2025, North Dakota introduced legislation for a strategic Bitcoin reserve, actually called digital assets, that would also allow North Dakota to diversify state funds into digital assets and precious metals. And the bill would protect the right to mine crypto, the right to self-custody, the right to use peer-to-peer transactions, and the right to run a node, with this bill being called Resolution 3001, and it already has 8 sponsors, as you can see here, with 6 representatives and 2 senators, and with Representative Nathan Toman having introduced the bill, with the bill having 2 committee hearings in the North Dakota House on the 14th and 29th of January already, since it was put forward. New Hampshire then introduced a strategic reserve very shortly afterwards on the 9th of January. State Representative Keith Ammon introduced this strategic reserve legislation that would be about 10% of the total public funds of New Hampshire, which is around $360 million. Similarly to the North Dakota legislation, the New Hampshire bill actually mentions digital assets rather than Bitcoin specifically, but the requirement of having a market cap of over $500 billion would mean that only Bitcoin would qualify for this currently. And Dennis Porter put out a post the day after this bill was released, responding to a comment saying that it was sneaky to not call it a Bitcoin reserve, with him saying that this tech-neutral wording in bills was common and planned to ensure that lawmakers have confidence in the bill actually passing, with there also being mention of investing in stablecoins and precious metals like gold, silver and platinum. Massachusetts filed its Bitcoin Strategic Reserve on the 13th of January, called SD422, that proposes an investment again of up to 10% of the total deposited in the Commonwealth Stabilization Fund, which stands at about $9 billion, so that would be up to $900 million in Bitcoin. And this bill was introduced by Senator Peter Durant. Also, we've seen this in Oklahoma, with Representative Cody Maynard introducing the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act on the 15th of January, which is called House Bill 1203. And it will apparently have its first reading in the House on the 3rd of February, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But Cody Maynard has said that this Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill is about protecting the hard-earned money of Oklahoma's citizens, securing a stronger financial future for the state, and showing that Oklahoma will adopt innovative fiscal policies. And this wasn't the only state to introduce a Strategic Bitcoin Reserve on January the 15th, because Wyoming did also, with this legislation introduced by Representative Jacob Wasserberg. And it states that no more than 3% of its general fund, the Permanent Wyoming Mineral Trust Fund, and the Permanent Land Fund can be used to invest in Bitcoin. With Senator Cynthia Lummis, given that she's from Wyoming also, putting out this post on the 17th of January, thanking and praising Jacob Wasserberger for introducing the legislation, calling it forward-thinking, and that it will benefit the state as they lead the nation in financial innovation. Then there's Ohio, that introduced its Bitcoin Reserve Bill on January the 23rd, with 6 co-sponsors that supported its bill aimed at establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, with up to 10% investment of state funds into Bitcoin, like a lot of states have put forward. This bill was led by State Representative Steve Demetriou, who stated on January the 24th that he was proud to have introduced this bill with the aim of hedging against inflation and keeping Ohio at the cutting edge of monetary and technological innovation. And Vivek Ramaswamy recently praised this strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill and Steve Demetriou for putting it forward. And Arizona actually became the first US state to pass a strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill through its Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, or SB 1025. This was introduced by Senator Wendy Rogers and Representative Jeff Vaniger, and was passed by the Arizona State Senate Finance Committee on January the 27th with a 4-3 vote. It will now go to the Senate Rules Committee for a final date and any amendments needed, with a second bill in Arizona being passed on the 27th of January also, this time introduced by Senator John Hoffman and Representative Rachel Keschel, that supports the use of digital assets, so Bitcoin, in pension funds. So these two bills allow up to 10% of a government entity's or public fund's capital to be invested in Bitcoin and other digital assets, including pension funds. Utah then quickly became the second state in the US after Arizona to advance a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill out of a House committee on January the 28th in an 8-1 vote, with it now moving to the full House and then Senate for a further vote, before going to Utah Governor Spencer Cox, who does seem to be pro-crypto, with this bill due to come into force on May the 7th, 2025, if it's passed. The bill interestingly allows the Treasurer to use crypto staking and lending in specific circumstances, and it would prevent the state and local governments from restricting the acceptance of crypto as payment for legal goods and services. Chief sponsor of this bill is Jordan Teuscher, who put out a post on the 21st of January saying how thrilled he is to announce HB 230, and that while Utah was the 11th state to introduce a strategic Bitcoin reserve, it will be the first to pass it, which might actually be true given it advanced out of the House committee just 7 days later on the 28th. And the day after this, on the 29th of January 2025, Illinois introduced a strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act called HB 1844. This was introduced by Representative John Cabell and would require the state to hold Bitcoin for a minimum of 5 years before being allowed to sell it or swap it. And finally, in terms of US states that have stated their intent or interest in establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, Florida Treasurer Jimmy Patronis wrote a letter and spoke on CNBC in October 2024 endorsing a strategic Bitcoin reserve, suggesting state pensions add Bitcoin to their portfolios, saying that crypto isn't going anywhere, it's going to continue to be expanding, and I think would be a fool if we're not prepared to do everything we can to harness the opportunities there. And on December the 3rd, Samuel Arms, the head of the Florida Blockchain Business Association, put out a post saying that Florida is going to launch a strategic Bitcoin reserve, likely in Q1 of 2025, and with just investing 1% into Bitcoin would still equate to over $1.8 billion in Florida, or by using Florida's budget surplus of about $116.5 billion, of which just 1% would be $1.165 billion. Samuel Arms also mentions Governor Ron DeSantis, who is pro-crypto and Bitcoin, even proposing that Florida accept tax payments in cryptocurrencies. Alabama State Auditor, former state legislator and supporter of crypto Andrew Sorrell, expressed support for crypto and a strategic Bitcoin reserve in Alabama when he spoke in December 2024, saying that the fight for which states will benefit from it has begun. He said that the states that are first to adopt a tax and regulatory framework that are friendly to crypto will attract business and investment. And Alabama has several pro-crypto politicians at state and federal level, such as Senator Tommy Tuberville, for example. Then, Kentucky State Representative TJ Roberts said on the 28th of January that he will be filing a Bitcoin Strategic Reserve bill next week, adding that he promised to fight to make Kentucky the crypto capital of the world. South Dakota Representative Logan Manhart put out a post on the same day saying that he will introduce a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill in the South Dakota House, with this being one of the few chances government has at being proactive. The day after this, on the 29th of January, Indiana US State Representative Jake Teschka introduced a Bitcoin bill, which directs the Department of Administration to evaluate how blockchain technology could be used. For example, the use of retirement funds to invest in Bitcoin and Bitcoin-based investment products. With this unfortunately having a longer time frame, with a deadline of March 2026, and for a final report being submitted to the Legislative Council no later than the 1st of October 2026, so quite a bit of time. And Dennis Porter put out a post on January the 30th, confirming that a bill has been introduced in Montana by Representative Gail Lammers in order to invest up to $50 million in Bitcoin, digital assets, stablecoins, or precious metals. So momentum is definitely picking up here, and it's pretty difficult to keep up with, because that's actually 10 states in the US that have put forward a strategic Bitcoin reserve bill in January 2025 alone. So this is obviously bullish for Bitcoin and crypto moving forward, with US states moving quickly on legislation on a state level, with the strategic Bitcoin reserve on a national level likely to take a bit longer, as I did cover in my previous video that you can find a link to in the description of this video. But that ends this video, and as always, I'd love to know what you think in the comments below. Just a reminder that if you're interested in more of a tailored approach to your crypto education, and you think you'd benefit from having someone look over your shoulder and guide you on your journey, I do offer one-to-one coaching to those who have the desire and the means to educate themselves further. And there are links in the description where you can message me and book in a free video call to see if we'd be a good fit. You can sign up for a free account with Coinly using the link in the description to this video, which is one of the best automated crypto tax platforms out there. If you're looking for more specific crypto tax advice based on your personal circumstances, I've partnered with a leading crypto tax company in Minor, which is part of the company Nephos, that offers other services such as wealth management, restructuring, offshoring, etc. But I'll leave a link to contact them directly in the description to this video. I've also included a link to Trezor's website in the description for anyone looking for one of the best hardware wallets or cold storage out there, with 2 new models released recently in the Trezor Safe 3 and Trezor Safe 5 that I actually did a video on that you can find a link to here and in the description. And finally, if you're looking for a portfolio tracker for your crypto portfolio they'd have included a link to CoinStats in the description to this video, which is the leading crypto and Bitcoin tracker on the market. And if you found this content interesting, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it really does help. And have a great day.